So this is what I really wanted to talk about mostly today. This happened a couple days ago. Justin Moan is the name of this man. And as you can see here, the title mentions beheading. A couple days ago, Justin Moan beheaded his own father. And this is notable as an act of violence, not just for its brutality, but because it was accompanied by a video on YouTube where he purportedly, and in this case, I believe it is the case, I have seen part of the video. I cannot stress this enough. Do not go looking it up. Do not. Do not go and look it up. In the video on YouTube, he made a number of claims that were far right in nature. Things like Biden destroying the country and blaming his father, who was a federal worker. From what I understand, he was an engineer or somewhere in that kind of sector. Not a politician, but he just worked for the government. So I want to go over some really quick background stuff, because after that, we're going to get into the history of Justin Moan. Because unlike a lot of, I want to say, people who have been indoctrinated with extremism, unlike a lot of them, there is actually a long trail pointing to Justin Moan really needing clinical help. And that is mostly represented by his art being books and music. And we will get into all of that in a moment. But first, let us go over some basic facts here. From The Morning Call. On his social media, Justin Moan describes himself as a musician, producer, author of 7 books available on Amazon, the commander of America's national network of militias, acting president of the United States, and maybe the Messiah. Moan, 32, was charged Wednesday in the death of his 68-year-old father, Michael Moan, whose decapitated body was found in the bathroom of his Middletown home Tuesday evening, police said. According to court documents, Justin Moan used a machete and a large kitchen knife, both found in a bathtub by police, who also recovered the victim's head wrapped in plastic in a large cooking pot. Police apprehended Moan in Fort Indianatown Gap, home to National Guard Training Center, some 100 miles and 2 hours away from Bucks County. It was unclear why Moan traveled to the area where the military installation bills itself as the busiest training center in the nation. Moan was arraigned on murder charges at midnight in Fort Indianatown Gap, says Middletown Police Lieutenant Pete Feeney. He confirmed Michael Moan was found decapitated in the home. Now, here is going into the video he uploaded to YouTube. In a 14.5-minute rant against the federal government posted by YouTube on Tuesday, Justin Moan displayed what he said was the severed head of his father, describing the victim as a 20-year-old federal employee. Moan did not admit to killing his father, who authorities confirmed was a federal worker in the video, but he called for the execution of all federal workers, claiming they had betrayed American citizens. Michael Moan was a retired civil engineer with the Army Corps of Engineers. So, not a federal worker in the political sense, somebody who did it as a day job, like went to an office 9 to 5 type deal. Was not voting on stuff, was not in any position to undermine things unless he was like a Russian sleeper agent. Quote, all federal agents, U.S. Marshals, federal judges, and Border Patrol are to be killed or captured, tortured for information, and publicly executed for betraying their country, Moan said in the YouTube video that has since been taken off the site. Quote, earn your place in heaven by sending a traitor to hell early. Throughout the video, which appeared to be filmed in a bedroom, Moan railed against what he described as far-left, woke, pro-immigrant, pro-Black Lives Matter, and pro-LGBTQ deep state labor racketeers and tax-evading big tech companies, influences in the federal government that he said are destroying America. YouTube took the video down around 10:30 p.m. Tuesday after it had been posted for about 6 hours and was viewed more than 6,000 times. In the video, Moan declared himself the acting U.S. president and ordered all militia and patriots to kill federal employees and seize federal buildings, including courthouses. He said he had access to $10 million and put $1 million worth of bounties on high-ranking government officials. If it wasn't clear by now, this is somebody, and like I said, it will become more clear as we look at things like the books that he wrote, the elaborate fiction he created around himself, and also a lawsuit he filed against the federal government for... So, and we'll look at this more in depth because I have all of this saved. A lawsuit he filed against the government for giving him student loans because he was mad that, in his words, he thought as a white man he had been underserved and he wasn't able to get a job because he was discriminated against. And so now that he had those loans, he felt wronged by the government. So yeah, let's start on his artistic abilities, let's say. On his Facebook page, Justin Moan Music, which is now delisted. I should also say that I had to use the Wayback Machine for a lot of the research because almost immediately after this happened, all of his books, all of his music on Spotify and Apple Music, everything he had done that was on Amazon and all of his Facebook pages got taken down. 71 followers Tuesday. He promoted 2 of his albums, The Story of Humanity and Color Funkin' Rado, which he said were released in 2017 and 2018. He described his musical style as a blend of rock, funk, and hip-hop using piano and organ as primary instruments. That is not accurate. Along with explicit lyrics, drums, synthesized bass, and other synthesized instruments. On his Amazon page, Moan, a 2010 graduate of Neshaminy High School, described himself as the author of 7 books and musician who has released 3 albums and 1 single. At Neshaminy, he was voted class clown runner-up and played soccer, according to the yearbook. Quote, his life story is unbelievable, and there may not be enough words to describe him, but one may begin to understand his complexity and experiences through his art. He only wishes to bring positive change to the world, his Amazon profile said. One of the big things that I feel, from just a cursory glance, and again, we will talk about all this more as we get deeper into his books and his writings, there is a definite delusion of grandeur that kind of permeates throughout Moan's story. And here it also goes over, in legal filings in the U.S. Eastern District Court in Philadelphia, though, Moan displayed his deep dissatisfaction with the federal government, specifically the U.S. Department of Education. Since 2022, Moan has sued the U.S. Department of Education Secretary Medel Cardona and the U.S. Department of Education twice, and last year the U.S. Attorney's Office and the Attorney General. All these suits, which Moan filed pro se, meaning he represented himself. In the most recent court opinion, U.S. Judge Mark Kearney wrote Moan's arguments in his latest suit, which sought $10 million, were similar to ones the court previously dismissed. He essentially claims the United States lent him money, which he needed to repay under a student loan contract beginning in late 2014. But this loan allowed him to get a college education, and he cannot find a satisfactory job as an overeducated white man to repay the loan, Kearney wrote. In his opinion, Kearney wrote that Moan graduated from Penn State University in May 2014 with a bachelor's degree in agribusiness management. Kearney, who Moan threatened by name in the YouTube video, wrote that Moan started repaying his student loans 6 months after he graduated, but he could not find full-time work. He moved to Colorado to take a full-time job at a credit union, according to the opinion. He later took a full-time job with an insurance company for a higher hourly wage, though the opinion didn't specify what it was. Quote, he views his work postgraduate years as malemployment, Kearney wrote. So remember when it was talking about how it's like a mix of funk and rock and like with organ and piano and synthesizers and such and whatnot? There's no real way to prepare people for this, so just kind of listen. Come on.
Don't move out, I might miss my only chance. Just stay at home, pay off your debt, you'll never get famous. You've never even been to LA or Las Vegas, but I don't wanna live at home forever. No one will stand. We lost the fight without a sound. Once pride and joy, now a museum. We are their toys, should burn it down.
Yeah, he's a wonky honky walking down the street. He looks like a junkie cause his arms touch his feet. And his pockets are clunky, but he ain't packing heat. Yeah, he's walking funky, in his head there's a beat. Is he a redneck? No. Is he white trash? No. Is he a wasp? No. Is he a racist? No. What is he? He's a walkie-honkie!
A con man's promise, or unpaid loans. Power is harnessed at the seat of the throne.
So already in that you can hear don't be mistaken of who really owns your home and talking about we all know who really owns. It's dancing around vague anti-Semitic conspiracies, but also just feels like vague globalist Illuminati, like QAnon type shit. The other one is, this is one of his albums, Justin Stalkers. Probably more than anything I've seen, really feels like, and again, you may have noticed that despite the lacking quality here, I'm trying not to laugh. I'm doing an honest job not to make fun of this because this is a very serious situation. And I think the most serious part of it is that this is somebody who very obviously needed psychiatric care. Justin Stalkers actually plays a somewhat pivotal role in the ongoing conspiracies around him now. Because of his very obvious paranoia, people are looking at this, and you can see here he has the album cover where he is very clearly saying someone's following me. Other conspiracists are looking at this as evidence that he was being followed by the CIA or the FBI or some, glowy government organization that was making him do these things, that was brainwashing him, that was MK Ultraing him. So the thing that is really, it's hard to call it interesting because it is such a tragic story, but the thing that I find personally fascinating is how Justin has already took his place in this conspiracy Ouroboros, where he is somebody who is very much not well, who, whether he fell down an internet rabbit hole, however he was radicalized, believed far-right talking points that we hear perpetuated all the time, like from Matt Walsh, from Mark Dice, from, all sorts of mainstream political commentators. These things about anti-wokeness and LGBTQ and diversity are ruining everything, and the white, you can't be a white guy anymore. Like that rhetoric, even if it wasn't from those sources directly, he found somebody who was spouting that and fell down that hole. The thing is that whatever radicalized him, his story is now being used to radicalize others. And that's the really scary part, is that as soon as, and you saw this on Twitter if you were looking at that, and I have a thread we'll look at later. As soon as this story dropped, the reason why there were 6,000, we were talking about earlier, why there were 6,000 views on the video, is because people went and sought it out because they already thought it was fake. The second they heard about it, that he called for violence against Biden and the woke LGBT mod, the same people who were always doing that, who are always openly threatening like civil war and stuff, were like, oh, this is a psyop. Oh, this is fake. And that's like the truly terrible part, because it is this, like I said, it's an Ouroboros where you are always proven right, no matter what evidence comes to the contrary. And in this case, no matter how violent and vile it is. Oh, Lantha57, I would say it's, so Lantha57 on YouTube asking, do you think this is pure mental illness or right-wing ideology? I think it is mental illness first and foremost, but the right-wing ideology doesn't help because it and I was having an argument with somebody in the comments when I announced this stream. They were saying like, oh, you're no different than leftists who say, who advocate, like you're no different than Antifa who advocates violence against right-wingers, or you're no different than the right-wingers who say like video games are responsible for killing things. It's like, no, because that's not the same at all. Like, well, it might be true that playing video games could trigger something in somebody who, you know, has a mental state where they need support. We don't generally see that spill over into actual violence. The difference between that and what that person was talking about is that right-wingers create a sense of self-persecution. And you see it all the time. Where even Matt Walsh, like, they are constantly shifting goalposts and constantly displaying for their audience how severe everything is, how dark and dangerous these times are. Like, and this goes all the way back, because I remember when I was in, like, conservatism, Glenn Beck would do the same thing. And you know, Rush Limbaugh did it too, but it was Glenn Beck was like, you know, our soul of the soul of the country is at stake in this election. And when I was a kid, I bought into that shit. Like, that felt real. It is never a matter of, like, just disagreement. There's a severity to it where it is all or nothing. It is a war. Like, you've heard Ben Shapiro talk about it. It's like, oh, we're in a war for the culture. And, like, it's the same thing. And for people who are more detached from reality, like Justin Moan, who are more susceptible to already having thoughts of paranoia, already having violent outbursts, already having these issues, being told these things over and over again is just like lighting a powder keg, because this person has no other mental health recourse. Like, whether that's because they weren't given proper attention by, you know, medical personnel if they did try and seek it out, whether it's because their parents didn't know or didn't see the signs, like, whatever happened there. When they fell down this rabbit hole, in Justin Moan's case, it just cemented, at least to him, all of these things that most conservatives, even if they believe, they don't believe it so sincerely or severely to go out and act on it every day. Like most people, even if they believe, you know, oh, the federal government is evil, or, you know, Democrats are pedophiles, and, you know, the Hillary drinks children's blood, like, even if they believe, like, that Alex Jones level shit, they have the wherewithal to not go out and murder somebody over it. But somebody who wholeheartedly believes, and this is something that, again, I don't think you really and until you've really, like, talked and interacted with someone who is in a headspace where they are so sure of what is happening, even though it can be defying, like, logic that is right in front of your eyes, like, in whatever case, you can't really grasp how mental illness affects conviction. Like, it is a firm conviction that something is really happening. And like I said, even if it's not, there's a spectrum of vulnerability to radicalization, though. Amber Westcott Baker, yeah, and that's what I am, and Joe Dax, anyone can be dangerous. That's what I'm really trying to get at here, is that people who are already susceptible to power fantasies, to feelings of persecution, to intense feelings of paranoia. And again, I don't want to judge what he has or what Justin Moan has. But, and as we'll see from this song and his writings, whatever he is suffering from, I feel it was only compounded by right-wing ideology, which led to him killing his dad. Anyway, let us look into Justin stalkers a bit.
Yo, you're Justin Moan. I heard you were gonna be here. My name's Mwah, 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 Mwah. Wanna smoke this blunt with me? Here, take a hit. I heard you sing while I'm a producer. I wanna make cool music with you, and I wanna write books with you. Here are my friends. Spray, 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 and Leo, 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 Leo. And here are our guns. You're either with us or against us. Can I count you into my crew? Can I make art with you? Hi Justin, my name is Sha-la-la-la, la-la-la. You're an author, that's so cool. I read your books, you're no fool. You're on your own at 27, but this world you rule is so cool. And you're so kind, so let's be friends. I'll hurdle any obstacles to be with you until the end. My life depends on you, your words are the only thing I've ever heard true.
Procter Gamble's This Guy Sounds Lonely. I think that's another thing that is not that isn't being addressed by a lot of the coverage of this, is that so many, and I think it goes hand in hand with his kind of delusions of grandeur and seeing himself as this very important like figure in like an ascendant movement, is that it sounds like, and you can hear it in this music where he's talking about like somebody literally coming to him and telling him how cool he is and how nice he seems and how much they want to be friends with him. And it really does feel like somebody who is in this crying out for help and nobody really noticed. So yeah, Amazon really lets anybody publish anything, as evidenced by this book Moan published. I believe this was 2017. So he publishes things in spates. Like he had I want to say 2 or 3 books published in 2020 alone. And I want to start with this one, and they go all over the place really. There are some that are fiction, some that are quote unquote nonfiction. The Revolution Leader's Survival Guide: How Schools, Workplaces, and Social Norms Kill the Genius Inside All of Us is the name of one of his books. And we see again kind of reflected in the lawsuit that he had about feeling malemployed as a white man with a college degree. From the author of the, mind you, all of this is written by him. Like this is important to know. From the author of the dystopian novel They Will Burn This Book, which is compared to novels such as 1984 and Brave New World, comes a revolutionary nonfiction book about the constraints against education, creativity, and human progress throughout history until today, and what we can do to stop this problem. The author views the world on the brink of either a golden age or of world peace and space colonization, or instead, a second dark age of global wars and depopulation within the next couple decades, if not sooner. Although primarily a fiction writer and songwriter at age 25, author Justin Moan felt obligated to write this nonfiction book next, as soon as possible, not just because of the shape of the world is in during... Okay, now I'm reading it right. Not just because of the shape the world is in during the 21st century, but from his life experiences, which he shares in this riveting book in order to help cover otherwise bland textbook topics in an explosively entertaining and educational manner for the reader. I do want to read the rating for this, because it came out April 5th, 2017. This was reviewed on July 8th, 2017. The book is a wild ride. It includes a time travel through history's greatest geniuses, information on intelligence and genius, and strategies offering help and advice to anyone today who feels quote-unquote different. The research behind this book is immense. Just look at the sources shows the writer did his homework. Many stories in this book are about very important characters in humanity, such as George Washington and Galileo, just to name a few, contain information which no one will easily find in a history book. The depth in which the author goes into detail about these amazing humans' lives is very admirable. I learned things about their past that I never would have imagined had happened. He hits the nail on the head on the role of genius in the world today and in the past, and how these people are often ridiculed, excluded, and ostracized from the masses that are hell-bent on living in the, quote, survival of the fittest mentality, which for most people comes out more like beat down anyone who is better than you at anything. So this one is 420 pages. It was released the year before in 2016. And I need to, again, we have one 5-star review. I cannot preface this enough. This is now, we're coming up on almost a decade ago. Like, this is a long history this guy has had with these, like, whatever malady has been troubling him. And it has just been getting worse, as we will see. The dystopian novel heir to the throne of classics such as Brave New World, 1984, and Fahrenheit 451. Song lyrics included in storyline. After World War II, Canada, America, and Mexico organized under one government, Northwest Continent, as the superpower of the world. Blah blah blah. It is a. If you can see here, like this is just a lore dump. Like, this is just a big old lore dump on this political novel he's made. I'm more interested in the about the author, because Justin Moan is a 26-year-old musician and author of 3 books and 1 music album. He has plans for several more science fiction books, including sequels and short stories, as well as nonfiction books with topics of economics and the sciences, and of course, more music and poetry. Justin's first dystopian book, They Will Burn This Book, has been compared to 1984, Brave New World, and Fahrenheit 451 in reviews. So let's go look at that review. It is a good story and an invigorating one. Like there are so many things in here that just, again, it just says Amazon customer, so I have no way to prove that it's actually reviewed by Moan, but the fact that both this review and the last one both mention things like how feelings of alienation and being like a special chosen one and like a genius that nobody else respects are important parts of the review. Like, those just feel very, I don't know, let's say it's coincidental. And here also the interesting part where Justin keeps continually saying it's been compared to 1984, Brave New World, and Fahrenheit 451. This book is up in the ranks with these politically charged masterpieces of the past, but Justin includes one aspect in his story that the authors of the post-World War II era lacked: hope and faith. This reader read the book and quite literally had to reevaluate his life afterward. Long walks were needed and silent time was necessary. The book was that profound and the message hit home so accurately. I highly suggest this to anyone who wants to learn more about the world they live in, why and how it is corrupt, and what we can do to change it, and maybe bring it down and establish a new order where we can do things like, oh, I don't know, go to space. That is interesting because space travel, and if you remember, here we are, oh, I don't go to space. If you remember, one of the things that Moan's talked about earlier, I believe in the video, or no, it wasn't in the video, it was in the other book, where we will either see a future with space travel or we're going to see like the entire economy and everything collapse. Which makes me, again, feel like this is just straight up his review. I don't think anybody is going to argue that the quality on these things probably lacking. But by and large, up to this point, like 2017, 2018, a lot of his stuff was fairly harmless. Like, if somebody wants to write their own weird sci-fi novel, and maybe if they put themselves as a protagonist, ultimately, who cares? Like, if other people want to make fun of them, that's not going to be me. Like, you know, you do you, boo. I don't really care. Like, if you want to do it, go for it. But there is a definite point where his rhetoric gets much more violent, especially in the last couple years. Such as America's Coming Bloody Revolution. Similar to Thomas Paine's Common Sense, published in 1776, which helped inspire the American Revolution, this short, easy-to-understand pamphlet explains why another revolution is likely in America and how such a revolution could be successful. It is literally a pamphlet because it's 32 pages. So here's another one from 2020. That's the third book from 2020. And here is where we get to, again, in the video where he killed his dad, he talked about like his army, and we talked about how he put, apparently, according to him, $1 million bounty on members of the government, and he talked about his army rising up. We see also here the very pompous isn't the right word for it, but a self-important streak. And you can kind of see that in previous books where he's like basically called himself a misunderstood genius. Yeah. The Second Messiah, King of Earth by Justin Moan. And we see he is using, this is a picture of himself, and then I suppose cameras snapping his picture. After a young adult musician, this is very likely a self-insert, named Buster Moon, which is honestly not a bad name, but also his last name is Moan, so Moon is not much of a change there. Moves from a small farm in Ohio to the affluent city of Colorado. Again, Justin moved to Colorado. He quickly notices things aren't quite right, and the people are strange. As Buster becomes the main focus of the city and the entire state, he slowly and painfully learns the dark secret of Colorado involving a widespread satanic cult, the Democratic Party, and the Cold War. Eventually, Buster gets more attention than he thought was possible for any artist, but not in the way a normal celebrity does, in the way a religious icon does. The only thing more absurd than the fiction book is the fact that it is loosely based on the life of author and musician Justin Moan, whose 4-year stay in Colorado caused multiple lawsuits and changed the possible outcomes of the 2020 U.S. presidential election by exposing 3 presidential candidates as corrupt, which forced them to drop out of the race. I have no idea what the story is behind that. But that's... Marquis decided I don't know what 3 he's talking about. But again, like that is a... Like... Again, if somebody wants to put out their own music, regardless of quality, I am a firm believer that if you do a thing, you can call yourself a thing. If you self-publish a book, you can call yourself a writer. If you self-publish music, you can call yourself a musician. That isn't so much a problem for me. So when he goes on these tirades and tangents where he calls himself a musician and an author and all that stuff, that's technically true. But it just seems like none of it was enough, and he needed to keep doing more and more. And that, along with people, I feel like people just continually didn't notice. Like, it didn't seem like he had a real network. A lot of artists and writers, like, for example, I use Twitter for networking a lot of the time. A lot of artists do. A lot of writers do. It doesn't seem like he was really part of any networks where, you get to know other writers and you would exchange tips and be like, retweet their stuff when they have a new project out. It doesn't seem like he really did any of that. It seemed like he was very solitary and alone. So all that being said, it seems like nobody really knew, outside of, a couple people, he existed. So a claim like he changed the outcome of the election, and we can see very clearly here, satanic cult, the Democratic Party, these are foundational aspects to conspiracies like QAnon. I don't know if he was a Q supporter, directly at least. Yeah. And here we have, this is an outlier among the reviews. A glowing example of the powers of what psyops are done on the American people. MK Ultra victim. So this book that he wrote about a conspiracy that he created and involved himself in is now being called a psyop, perpetrated by the US government, and he is a victim of MK Ultra. It is wild to have all of this at your fingertips, like the ideas around this stuff, and you can just go and look it up almost immediately. And I've talked about this a little bit already. Almost immediately after the video was posted, where this person who was very obviously taken by conspiracy theories has been called a Psyop. He is now, it is just, it's so hard to watch this stuff continually going on, because here's somebody who was very broken by a system that was not given the care that he very obviously needed, and fell down a rabbit hole, whether that was QAnon, whether that was Illuminati conspiracies, whether that was InfoWars, whatever. He fell victim to parts of the internet that constantly feel self-victimized and are constantly coming up with new conspiracies to justify that. And it caused him to eventually lash out in violence and justify those violent actions. And instead of seeing the human behind that tragedy, the same type of people who inculcated him with those conspiracies just see him as one of the conspiracies.
SkylisJWellfire.com, Final Days Report, episode 317. What timing? Crazy young man allegedly decapitates his father, a government worker, and has a call to action for militias and right-wingers for a revolution. Ironically, the Democrats, and probably many Republicans as well, are trying to ban militias to keep their criminal enterprise afloat, their insider trading and everything else.
Is about to make the case that Justin Moan is a psyop, that he has had contact with the feds. Keep in mind everything we've looked at here that portrays a very clear history of somebody who needed psychiatric care, of somebody who had very big fantasies, epic fantasies, that he often starred himself in as a very important, underappreciated leader. And they are taking that, conspiracists like this are taking that and running with it. He also had paranoia, as we saw in the album where he had 3 songs titled after Justin's stalkers. So yeah, let's see how they, I want to make sure that that he doesn't show the video. So let me, okay, no, it's going to be somebody else.
But her take on this decapitation I find interesting, and I'll leave the link to her video. It's about an hour long, and she ties in Columbine and some other MK Ultra type information and does a pretty good job. But you just got to think back and just say, isn't this interesting? This crazy man and the story of decapitation ironically fits right around the time they're trying to really destroy the Constitution with, again, the corporation of the United States. It's wicked. Let's roll.
This guy is like a... I just saw this when I was in, like, doing some investigating on Justin Moan on the Internet Archive. This guy is like a conspiracy turducken. Like, every time he says something, I find that he's into a new thing. Like, first he's like extreme evangelical, believes in reprobate mindset and giving yourself over to Satan and actual demonic possession, and now he believes in psyops and like MK Ultra mind control. And then he also believes in like sovereign citizen stuff now, where he's talking about the corporation of the United States. Really quick, somebody in the chat asking what has Columbine got to do with the MK Ultra. And you could probably single-handedly blame Alex Jones for this, but like most, and this was why Sandy Hook was like such a pivotal thing, is for the last 20 years, really since Columbine, Alex Jones in particular, and a lot of sovereign citizens, a lot of libertarian types, private militias, will basically look at any mass shooting in America and say, oh, it's a false flag. It's a false flag operation, and Alex Jones will, well, ladies and gentlemen, this is a false flag operation that's obviously coming to grab your guns. And the Democrats want to use these crisis actors to take your guns away and try to destroy the Constitution. And it's like that's the thing that they say. So when they say like, oh, any act of violence is MK Ultra, it's a glowy op, it's a psyop, that's kind of what they're trying to get at for one reason or another.
And in the video, he claims to be like the leader of a national militia, and it's called a call to arms to American patriots. And it appears to be, it reads like it was written by an FBI agent that.
Here's the thing: when you actually listen to it, and I wonder if how much she's gonna show of it. It doesn't read like it's written by an FBI agent. Like this is this bizarre, like it reads like somebody in these movements. Like this main guy, the way he's talking about how the government wants to destroy the Constitution, and Biden wants to overthrow everything, and like we're in such a tumultuous time, and the devil, like it reads like somebody from this space. He sounds like this, and he's trying to play this video saying, oh, actually, it's like FBI if you really listen to it. But it's not, because this is the real deep lore that they end up talking about.
He claims to have contracted for Microsoft. So he claims to have been a contractor working at Microsoft.
Okay. Why would you, and this is something that conspiracy theorists do a lot, but why would you start off a video by acknowledging that he is not mentally well, and then take him at his word on literally anything? Like, with somebody like this who has such obvious delusions of grandeur, why? Why would you be like, okay, well, obviously he did this?
He claims to be a national militia leader, which again is patently false. He claims he reported labor racketeering to the FBI.
He also claimed, let's not forget, he claimed that he influenced the 2020 election by exposing corruption for 3 candidates and forcing them to drop out.
Like in his local area in Colorado or something. He also made the claim that both political parties wanted him to be the president in 2020, and that, it's just insane. And that the FBI betrayed him. Like, the guy sounds mentally ill and unhinged, so just take a listen to some of the bizarre things he says here. This is around 10 minutes into the video.
On companies firing employees, so that there is a constant level of unemployment, which creates a constant level of homelessness, which creates a constant level of crime.
One of the things that was also immediately apparent is he's absolutely reading from a script. He's got some kind of Word document on his computer that he's reading from. Now, I don't know if he wrote this himself or if it was furnished.
Gee, I wonder if he has, I don't know, a history of writing messed up stuff. I wonder if he has a history of making grand gestures to revolution and violently overthrowing the government. Mayhaps in some published work that was easily accessible. Who's to say? Better not look into it. Might mess up our conspiracy.
To him to read, but you can tell he's obviously unwell. But again, also, supposedly this horrific crime has just been committed and the room is yet pristine. Not one drop of blood, as far as I can tell, on that.
Again, I cannot express enough how little these people actually understand about, like, crime scenes. When you put a head in a plastic bag, you stop getting the blood everywhere. It's also not to say that we don't know if he killed his dad here. I'm going to say maybe not. Also, you can, like, there's places in this room you could kill them behind the camera. Like, the idea that it doesn't look like a horror movie, like it's not Texas Chainsaw, and there's not, like, blood splattered all over the walls is enough for them to be like, I don't know. This looks pretty fishy to me. It's like, do you think it's a one-room house? Like, that's I feel like that's all I really, like.
To fill up the prisons so that prisons, lawyers, and courts can make money. And in these democratic cities where the...
No, Takashito, that's actually a really great point. If there was blood, they would claim it was corn syrup. Like, and maybe not even corn syrup, but they would be like, well, look at how movie sets can make blood look this way. And it's like there is... again, there is always, it's a hydra. If you cut off one head, 3 more pop up. Like, any way you can disprove these conspiracies with facts, they will come up with new ways to prove, actually, that actually proves it if you think about it. Like, if you were to say, okay, factually, this man died and his son killed him and cut his head off and put it on YouTube, they'll be like, aha, then you are actually the glowy Psyop FBI agent. You are spreading the military propaganda. It's like it never ends for them. It always needs to have another thing. Like, there needs to always be a new tangent that it goes down.
These labor prison rackets thrive. Only the far left woke and LGBT employees have job security and get promotions, while the quota of unemployment...
By the way, I've literally heard people talk like this. If you go and listen to the church infiltration video I did, one of the guys, when we were sitting down and I was having lunch with the NIFB hate church members, one of the guys literally was telling me about how he hated his job because unless you were like a purple-haired lesbian and got affirmative action, you couldn't get a raise or anything like that. Like, again, when people are talking, like she was saying, oh, this sounds like an FBI script. I've literally heard people, like, with my own ears, 2 feet away from me, say this shit to me unironically. Man's literally tried to sue the United States government because he got a student loan and couldn't find a job and blamed it on him being a white man, an overeducated white man. Like, this is literally a legal document. Here is Moan v. United States, December 6, 2023. Justin Moan, a 2014 graduate of Penn State University, returns for the 4th time, pro se, that means he's representing himself, to sue the United States for allowing him to borrow money to attend college without advising him he may not find satisfactory work as an overeducated white man almost 10 years later. He essentially claims the United States lent him money, which he needed to repay under a student loan contract beginning in late 2014, but this loan allowed him to get a college education and he cannot find a satisfactory job as an overeducated white man to repay the loan. He seeks over $10 million from the United States. We dismissed his similar complaints 3 times, including a negligence claim. Graduated in 2014. So this is something he's been doing for almost a decade. These legal actions, specifically blaming his status as a white man, blaming diversity. But no. Again, it's easier for them to see, oh, Fed, glowy, op. Then look at the actual history behind this guy.
Buzzwords: woke, affirmative action, militia, blah blah blah. Like, if you just, it literally reads like a fan fiction written by an FBI agent who is trying to imitate what an extremist would sound like. Oh yeah, throw these buzzwords in, and it all happens to be, again, things that matter to the Democratic Party.
What did I say? What did I just say? What did I just say? Also, saying that those are things that matter to the Democratic Party, as if, like, one of Republicans and conservatives' biggest issues in the last couple years hasn't been anti-diversity, anti-CRT, anti-trans wokeness and all that shit. Like, come on. Come on. You're really going to play that card that, oh, these things are important to Democrats, not literally everybody on conservative sides will not shut up about these things? We've seen a lot here already that points to this person being very disturbed, very isolated, very alone. And someone who genuinely needed help. And he turned to, instead, conspiracies. Like, we saw it even in a little bit of his writing. Echoing blood libel and Democrat conspiracies, satanic cabal nonsense. And the thanks he gets for being one of these people, for being a victim of their hateful rhetoric, is to be consumed by the conspiracy itself and regurgitated as another part of it. Which is, again, they just don't know how to see the human behind it, which I think is incredibly sad, because I genuinely think this is going to keep happening. Maybe not exactly like this, obviously, but it's not the first time we've seen somebody who has gone so far down that rabbit hole kill their family members at all, and blame it on, there was the QAnon guy a couple years ago who killed his kids, both of his kids, took them out of state, and I think he buried them in Mexico. Like, it's not the first time. And the more these people try to deflect, instead of coming to a reckoning about the role that their rhetoric actually plays, the more harm I think it's going to do.